So hey there, health coach. So recently, as I listened into some coaching demos, I witnessed 3 really emotional coaching sessions where the client actually broke down in tears. And it was a really good reminder that emotions and crying do happen in our health coaching sessions. It really is common because we're providing a safe space for our client to open up and to be vulnerable and to discuss their health and well-being. So it makes sense that if something is happening in their life, like grief, loss, or crisis, it's likely going to show up in our sessions. So I just wanted to share some specific examples of situations that can cause emotions and crying, specifically with health coaching clients. These are things that I've particularly experienced myself. Things like divorce or relationship issues, diagnosis of a serious illness, a family crisis, loss of a loved one, or loss of a job. So because this is fairly common in our field, I thought it might be helpful just to share some best practices on how to support emotional clients. So I have for you today my top 3 best practices for what to do when your client cries in a health coaching session. So number 1 is to be calm and continue to hold the space with empathy and compassion. Don't tell them not to cry. Don't use a term of endearment like, "It's okay, honey," or "It's okay, sweetheart." Remember, you're not their mother. Also, don't dismiss their emotions. We really want to just simply be with them. Let them know that you can see this is bringing up emotion for them and that that's okay. They are likely going to apologize for the tears, but remind them that it's really normal to express emotions in this way, that it's a normal reaction to what they're experiencing, and it's totally okay to let that out. So then you want to invite them to take the time that they need, and that you'll be here when they're ready to continue on. Remember, it is not your job to fix this situation or make the hurt, the pain, or the grief go away for your client. It's really about honoring what they're going through and continuing to hold that they are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole, and trust that they will come to the other side of this, throughout their own process. If you're in person with them, it's always great to have tissues available. And if you're virtual, you might just ask them if they need to grab a tissue or to have a sip of water, and just give them a moment. Tell them to take whatever time they need. So that was my number 1 tip, which is really hold space with empathy and normalize the emotion. Don't dismiss or ignore what's happening. So let's move on to best practice number 2. So when you sense the energy is shifted and the client is ready to continue, let them decide what the next step is. Don't force your session structure on them or jump right into the next step. Sometimes with emotional clients, the entire session just needs to be holding that space for them to let it all out and to talk about their feelings. Not every session needs to follow that step-by-step agenda. So simply ask the client, what's the best use of the rest of our time together? Where would you like to go from here? Would you like to talk about what is coming up for you? Would you like to share what you're feeling? However you word it, let the client decide what the next step is and really follow their lead. If they do want to talk about those feelings, remember your scope of practice. You're not a therapist, but holding space for your client to open up and share what feelings and emotions are coming up for them is absolutely a great use of your time together. A good inquiry at this point is to explore what other supports your client might have to get through this challenging time, whether that be family, friends, or other health professionals. So just to recap, the number 2 best practice is to let the client decide where they want to go next. Don't try and force an agenda or action steps. And then we come to my tip number 3 is about considering your own emotions. So as coaches, we know that this type of thing can come up. We know our clients could cry. And this is why we really need to be fully grounded, centered, and present for our clients. It's why we need to do our own work and process our own stuff so that we're in a good emotional place to hold space for our clients. But you may also be aware that you may cry. You may be a sensitive person. We're empathetic. We care for our clients. So if they're going going through something challenging, we might really feel emotionally for them. I know this has totally happened to me. I get choked up, I might have a tear or two, and I personally think that that's just simply me being genuine and real. We as coaches are human, right? We care, and our emotions, I think, are a demonstration of that. But of course, try and not get too emotional so that maybe the client feels bad that they made you cry or anything like that. And finally, take some time after the session to regroup, especially if it's been emotional for you. Perhaps you feel a little bit more emotionally drained after the session. So take a break, get a little rest, maybe journal or process the feelings you experienced as you held space for your client. So those are my 3 best practices. Let's recap what those were when dealing with crying clients. Number 1, hold space with empathy and normalize the emotion. Don't dismiss or ignore what's happening. Number 2, when the client is ready to continue, let them decide where they want to go next. Don't try and force an agenda or action steps on your client. And finally, number 3, be conscious of your own emotions. Take time before the session to get grounded, centered, and present, and take time after to rest and process. I hope that was helpful for you, and I just wanted to check in. Have you dealt with emotional clients? I'd really love to hear additional tips that you have or things that you did in the moment to support your client. I'd love to hear those in the comments. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.